नमस्कार।
Delegation
नमस्कार।
of authority is a delegation of authority and decentralization. Delegation authority and decentralization. Delegation of authority part of process of organization inside the business of organization which increase in the size of industry is not possible to facilitate for the individual to do all the work by himself. For he takes himself unable to expand his business, unable to expand his space, unable to expand delegation
नमस्कार।
of authority is a delegation of authority and decentralization. Delegation authority and decentralization. Delegation of authority part of process of organization inside the business of organization with the increase in the size of organization is not possible to facilitate for the individual to do all the work by himself. For he takes himself unable to expand his business, unable to expand the space, unable to expand delegation of authority is a delegation of authority and decentralization. Delegation authority and decentralization. Delegation of authority part of process of organization inside the business of organization with the increase in the size of organization is not possible to facilitate for the individual to do all the work by himself. For he takes himself unable to expand his business, unable to expand his space, unable to expand delegation of authority is a delegation of authority and decentralization. Delegation of authority and decentralization. Delegation of authority part of process of organization inside the business of organization with the increase in the decentralization, 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 decentralization. Delegation of authority, important part of delegation of authority refers the authority refers the authority. Delegation means in bribe the passing of the share of four element of management is process different between delegation authority by a manager manager to his subordinate which manager which is a considered manager is considered necessary for carrying out of the task of assign in delegation means in bribe the passing only of the share of the poor element of the management process. Delegation is a dynamic of management. Delegation is a dynamic of management. Delegation of dynamic in management. Delegation dynamic in management. Delegation dynamic in management. Delegation is management dynamic in management. Delegation means in bribe the passing up of the share of the four element of management process. Four element of the management delegation means in bribe the passing on to the other of share of the four element of the management process. Difference between delegation and authority. Discuss between delegation and authority. Discuss between delegation and authority. Mission of authority. Delegation of authority and the transfer of rights seem similar, but there's a difference between these two. The meaning of transfer of right is transfer all over the right assigned to oneself to other, but in delegation of authority neither all the work nor all the right are assigned to the other, but all the important work is done by the transfer himself. He think about assigning the work when he is workload so much that he himself cannot be whole work efficiently. Keep in mind of delegation of authority. Delegation of authority only the right is transferred on and not the accountability at the end the responsibility lies with him. The addition The transfer of the right can also take back the transferred right where whatever he should desire. Following are the main element of delegation of authority. A process assign the distribution of work, grant authority, ensuring accountability. Characteristics of delegation. Delegation is a process, right of transfer, no reduction in responsibility, routine work, limitation, essential element, only transfer of authority. Only transfer. The manager should transfer his authority to subordinate relation to job or not. Discrimination is not that no transfer justification of no transfer characteristic delegation. A process, a right to transfer, reduction in responsibility, routine work, limited length, essential element, only transfer of authority. Importance of deduction of the workload manager, means of coordination, increase in the margin effectiveness, specialization service, helping the development of employee, increase the morale of employees. Reduction of the workload of the manager, means of coordination, increase in the margin increase in the margin effectiveness, increase in the margin effectiveness, acquisition of specialization service, acquisition of special service, helping in development of employer, helping and morale of the employee, increase in the morale of the employer, helping in the development of the organization, The following are the major difficulties of delegation and authority. Limitation or difficulty of delegation, consider more capable. When superior consider themselves to be more capable than subordinate, then there is a problem in delegation of authority. Distrust. When officer trust their subordinate, then security obstacle, distrust, lack of art knowledge. If the difficulty to delegation of the right, even if even if even if even if the higher authority do not have sufficient knowledge of the art of delegation of authority, where when higher officials are a part of fear, they create obstacles in the delegation of authority. Lack of self-confidence. When someone must have self-confidence fulfilling their knowledge, they are afraid to take authority. Lack of encouragement. Decision making. One tribe as organization, centralization and decentralization. Centralization further shown contraction of authority. The decision of organization higher level under this rule of subordinate decision making remains negligible, and they only implement the decision taken by the higher management. In contract, decentralization refers the scatter of the right and decision throughout the organization, in which all rights except the few important ones are distributed in orderly manner of lowest level of management. In fact, these two are relatively termed because neither centralization is possible in any enterprise nor complete decentralization possible, but only mixed form. Both are seen. Meaning of definition of decentralized and developing form of delegation must be when management transfer relatively large amount of authority to its subordinate. It is called decentralization. Large amount of authority or to a subordinate. This kind of distribution of motivation of and responsibility under which almost all the authority of systematically delegate lowest level with the higher management retain only the right to make important decisions and set policy related to whole organization. Decision consider complete only when the right of transfer to majority of the person to whom the right is assigned. The scope of decision is much wide than that of delegation. For example, the chief manager is undertaking grant of the production manager of the right to recruit employees of department, increase pages, etc. This authority will call as delegation authority, but Chief Manager delegates the authority of manager or department when it will be called as a decentralization. When the but if the chief manager delegates the authority to manage all the department, then will be is called decentralization. This burden full form from a practical difference seen in the General Motor Corporation of everything that goes to increase an importance of subordinate rule is decentralization. Decentralization refers the systematic effort of the delegate to the lowest level. All authority expect that which can only express a central point. Decentralization is a distribution of authority and responsibility to the smallest unit that is a particular thought. Some decentralization for the systematic delegation and delegation of decision making power to the lower level. Those who have implemented decision themselves or who directly association with this decision. And a burden of first stage of decentralization. Decentralization give importance role of the subordinate. It is a process applicable throughout the organization. In this right are transferred in the portion of responsibility is giving an antonym opportunity to subordinate demonetization result even decentralization 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 even decentralization.